Chad.
Hey, Jamie. How are you?
Welcome, everyone. This is this week's episode of Paranormal Lens, hosted by Jotnik's Paranormal. Jamie Widener here, Chad Thomas over there. The usual two that you see every Tuesday at 9. What's happening, buddy?
Oh, just work, more work, and all sorts of stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know that. I mean, that's what we do, right?
mm,
Welcome to Adult 101.
yeah.
You got
It
to
was,
take some time every once in a while just to balance it all out.
yeah. It was more work this weekend than any fun stuff. So,
Well, yeah, I hear that.
but,
Okay.
but that's how
Well,
it goes.
you're going to get your time, I
Mhm.
think, probably.
Yep. So,
Hey, there's Todd and Carmela. Evening, guys. Happy Halloween, early Halloween to you as well. It's I am dressed for the occasion. This is my
yeah.
costume. I'm
So,
officially apparently I'm a Ghostbuster. I didn't know it. So I'm going to be Venkman tonight. Um, he's the cool one. They're all cool actually. So uh, hey
so,
Amanda, welcome and hey you guys. I love it. Love
yeah,
it.
Mickey.
Frankie, welcome. Good to see you, buddy. There's somebody who got around this weekend. That Frankie guy. I got some stories to tell there. I
Mm.
heard he was in the Columbia area having a good time. Jim, good evening. Happy extra spooky week. It's correct. It is. It is on the countdown at this point. Um, we had a kid out at trunk or treat this evening, and I forgot they were going to come home in costume, and it was the most of a Beetlejuice outfit except for the wig, which it looked like with a hairnet over. It looked like he was from the hood, so it was kind of funny. And his all costumes all kind of beat up like Beetlejuice should be. I'm like, did you have a rough night? So
Uh,
you know.
mm.
Um, that was pretty
I
cool though. And
actually I had to run some food over, so
oh, that's right.
to see them in costume.
Well, it's one of those things where I think the aging is they're at the line for aging up out of the trick or treat window, which we all know was like the saddest year ever, right? You
Hmm.
go from getting it to giving it really quick, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if you live in a place where kids don't come around much, at least you get the back stock, that you bought. But
Right.
um, as you get older, you don't want it anyway. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Take some to work and hand it out. So if y'all can't tell, we're stalling, and I guess maybe you can't because you don't know what's coming. But we have Ron Yacovetti and Lourdes Gonzalez with us tonight from the Staticom Project, and what is going to be the Spook-tacular Event recap Volume 2. But they're having slight trouble logging into our new streaming service. And I don't blame them because I think I struggled the first time through as well. So,
Oh,
oh,
we're
but
we're getting
just as you speak of the devil,
uh,
the devil appears.
so
And let's bring him in.
all right. Do you want me? Actually,
Well,
Jamie
actually,
said that I should do something that I did the other
yeah,
night, so I'm going to go ahead and do it and see if they get a little embarrassed. So, but tonight I have the honor and privilege of introducing two special guests, Ron Yacovetti and Lourdes Gonzalez. Though I've only known them a little over a year, in that time I feel I've found colleagues in the paranormal field who are not only dedicated to research but also incredibly supportive of everyone in this community. On top of that, they've developed some groundbreaking technology that they shared with us the other night. Um, and I'm just going to sort of skip through parts of this. Listing all their accomplishments would take quite a bit of time, so here are the highlights. In September, they traveled to the UK to participate in the Festival of the Unexplained. That same month, Ron's fifth book, Afterlife Contact, was published. In August, they along with Tony and Sheree Rathman, presented at the Paranormal Research Symposium, and the list goes on and on. I reached out to Tony for some wise words, and he had this to say. Ron and Lourdes' dedication to understanding, researching, and testing the past history of ITC has been instrumental to bring Staticom to what it is today. Without this depth of dedication, Staticom would not have the solid foundation it has behind it. They follow in the footsteps of the ITC pioneers like Bacci, Jurgensen, Raudive, Sanowski, and Cardoso. Like those before them, Ron and Lourdes have navigated the challenges of fine tuning their technology through countless tests, adjustments, and according to Tony, Rathman, harassment in the process. Ladies and gentlemen, Ron and Lourdes.
Hey.
Hi guys, how are you?
There we go.
Good evening. Wow.
Thank you. That was very kind of you. Thank you.
Of course.
Of course. Good evening. Welcome. How
Good
y'all
evening.
doing?
Good.
We're good. Can you hear us all right?
I can hear you just fine. Chad, I think we lost you a little bit there at the end of that wonderful introduction, by the way, too.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
But the point is, and I'll tell you guys, you know, when you heard that, in the room at the Spook-tacular event, and I had no idea it was coming, and I stood there and was like, oh my gosh, that was awesome. So, but it's every bit of it is true. You guys are rock stars.
Oh, that's weird.
So,
Yeah, we've
Thank you for
yet to
taking some
crash a
time out of
hotel
your
room.
busy schedule. Well, you got the Vegas thing in the background, so I think you're well on your way. So,
Yeah. No, we
if it was someone else's hotel room, maybe, right? But you got to get your
Yeah.
deposit back.
Yes, clearly.
We've reached that stage of life.
Clearly. No, we appreciate it. That was very kind when Chad did it at the event live. We certainly appreciate it now as well. There's Todd and Carmela.
Mm-hmm.
So they were with us that night. And yeah, it was we worked with Chad before. It was the first time we got to meet and work with you in person, which was awesome. Did a fantastic job anchoring the event, keeping everybody involved and making it enjoyable for everybody, including us.
It was great. We had fun.
I think it was a great night. I had a good time. It was, it went really late, but it was I thought it was a really good event. So
Yeah, they have to go late.
mm-hmm.
They have to. Yeah, that's like in the book, right?
Yeah, John Nix does a great job. You guys do a great job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, John Nick's events are run. It's a tight ship, but it doesn't feel tight in a restrictive way. It's like everything just moves comfortably.
It flows well.
It flows well. Everything gets done that needs to get done. Everybody experiences everything they're there to do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that was your first time at Boobies, if I remember correctly.
yeah, oh yeah. And that was something I wanted to mention because you guys talk the place up, and everybody has favorite places or places they go, and they talk it up. This place is amazing, yada yada yada. You guys did that too, but as much as you seem to be really selling how cool this place was, I would say now that I've been there, you probably undersold it. It's unbelievable as locations go. I mean, historically, and the size of the place, and all the different characteristics of it with the tunnels underground and
The catacombs.
the catacombs. It was unbelievable.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah. So
Yeah, and I'm sorry that you only got like the 15-minute tour as well as we kind of hustled through. With you weren't your location was fixed. You were going to be in the ballroom. We knew that.
Of course, yeah.
And then you weren't going to get to see the bar. You weren't going to really get to see the catacombs or anywhere else along the path. So it's important to get to understand the scale of that place because it is hard. From the outside, it doesn't look like what it is, and from the inside, you're like it doesn't end.
Yeah.
It keeps going. And where am I going to come out next? And we didn't even go upstairs to the hotel level.
I know.
Next time. And you had the really cool experience of getting to stay over in the Malt Baron mansion across the street, which, and I appreciate the opportunity to step over. Todd and Carmel invited me over to look at the place. And, for me, that place is the next thing for us as a team because we've never had a chance to investigate the building because it's always booked. And the last thing you want is, ghost people walking around and knocking on walls and saying, can you hear me? And, in the middle of the night when you're trying to rest. That's why we don't let folks go to the hotel level as well, unless you're a guest, of course. But what a neat place over there too. So it just continues. This whole
Well, we figured out for you that because we went into the basement and it's closed off, which is probably what you was expecting. Yeah. But and we asked the person that we were with, she didn't know exactly where it was located. I think I know because if you use like common sense and it connected to the other side, but she really doesn't know.
She did suggest that it was probably below the basement level we were standing on.
Yeah.
It wasn't at that level.
Yeah.
But yeah, that place, I mean, the only place that the brewery is missing, the only thing they don't have there are those signs they have at a mall that goes, "You are here." So you can find where everything else is.
With the map. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I found myself at the King of Prussia Mall recently and needing that because I had to pass through a building to get to another building and through a store, and I'm like, my car is somewhere in this somewhere. Like how do I get out of here? And next thing you know, like 2 steps. There we go. So I'll put that in the suggestion box next time we're over.
Oh, that's very kind. We're not rock stars. It's funny.
We do appreciate the compliment. We do,
Yeah.
but it is a little weird. We just do us. Like just be kind to people, do your thing, and good things happen. I mean, that's really all to it.
Yeah, we would never be comfortable with the whole rock star para celebrity title to begin with. But in the culture we now exist in now, probably even less so because it seems to be the brass ring more than evidence capture, research, or anything to do with paranormality does. So, Frank, but these comments from people like these people from folks like yourselves, that to us, that's the legacy. That's hopefully the work, and then in our role in the community, that's the legacy that we protect and that we care about. I'll say this 100 times: the community is not great because we're in it. We're in it because it's great.
Yeah.
I totally appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom line is, we're all in it together, right?
Right.
And the success of one side is the success of another, and whatever faction you're in, group, team, title you have, if somebody's doing something good for the community, then it's good for all of us.
Right.
We need
Yeah.
as much positivity and light. We get enough trash talk on us because of things that people do. And I said this with Daryl Marston was with us last week, and I kind of said something in the same sense of it. When somebody fakes evidence and presents it, and it gets proven, that's a black eye. That's a smear on us, Or when somebody comes across with false claims or things, they rip people off, like you come to do an investigation, you don't get what you're supposed to get. All of those things are the negatives that we don't need, because it's hard enough for people to take us seriously at times because it's not a real thing. Ghosts aren't real. Paranormal stuff is just a hobby, and yes, it is a hobby for a lot of us because we don't do it full time. But it's that thing where we need all. I'm not going to say this quite right, but we need all the help we can get, and we certainly don't need any negativity. So the work you're creating, is pushing us in the positive direction. And the evidence you're capturing is certainly doing so. And because and I'm going to say this probably like 62 times tonight. We're probably all going to say it, but timing and relevance really come into play.
Mm-hmm.
And it fascinates me there because, when we have EVP sessions and we're recording, and we have audio and video running in a session, we don't know what we got until we're long gone, when we have the opportunity to go investigate somewhere, it might be the only time we go there. We're fortunate. We're very blessed to say that we can come back to Bube's Brewery every month and get to do this over and over and over again. We've been doing it for years there, so we have that compound knowledge and experience level. But when you're paying your money to go to, a place and you can only get there once, you're going to get what you get, and you have to go back and you kind of have to piece it together because, you got to trust that everybody in the room is honest. It wasn't them making a noise or something happened. And, that was physically us first, and then take that stuff away and then figure out what you may or may not have got. And we all want Class A EVPs, right? But we don't always get them, and we rarely get them. What you're hearing on the regular is in that category, and it's amazing. So I'm gonna stop talking because I don't think I really said anything, but
No, you didn't, and we appreciate it.
In there.
And I've been criticized in the past for not taking enough credit for what it is that we do and what Tony and Sheree Rathman do as part of the Staticom Project team. But it's so important to me, not just for progression purposes when we are trying different things and having an awareness of what was done and who did such before you, but for the reverence of it too. Because had it not been for the pioneers of direct radio voice, had it not been for the kindness of Dr. Annabelle Cardozo, who's the last surviving of the original guard of vocal phenomena researchers out of Europe, she's the last one. Bachi, Sinkowski, Jurgensen, Radove, they're gone. So if it was not for that reverence and respect, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. You know, the Rathmans and us would not be involved with all the stuff we're doing with Staticom had it not been for her kind of, she mentored me into this, and then I got the other three of us all involved, and luckily so, because it's been a fantastic ride so far. But that to me is really important, and a lot of times I get criticized by our friends, going, "You don't take enough credit for it," but you know, somebody builds the foundation and you put up the house. You always have to remember that's what you built on.
Right.
Absolutely. We're all walking in someone else's shadow to get where we've gotten. And someone will come in ours behind us, right?
And
that's just the way it works.
To get to is we have to be ready for people to follow in our footsteps as well, and be able to continue the research once you know we're ready to hand it off and things like that. So,
yep.
So, no, absolutely.
Bert has an interesting comment here. He said he's gotten more Class A EVPs at Bube's than anywhere else.
I believe it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I believe it. That place was. We did. It's Todd and Carmela mentioned earlier. We did an EVP session in the basement of the mansion or the manor across the street where we stayed the next morning, and we did get some pretty good stuff down there on recorders. So
yeah, I think we mentioned to you. We actually heard our first disembodied voice at Bube's a month and a half or so ago.
Yeah, we did. Alex, your son Alex actually caught it. Heard it in the moment, and of course went back to his recorder immediately and brought it up crystal clear. It's a great catch.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So
that was cool to us too. The fact that his son with him, Alex was with him. We thought that was cool. Really nice guy. Very nice kid.
Yeah.
One of the two Thomases is really cool, and the other one's older.
The other one's older. Nice team, and they had cookies, for crying out loud. If I had 100 complaints, you would have shut me up with the fact that you had cookies.
The cookies were this big too.
Yeah. That's how he likes them.
Yeah. Actually, Amanda was there and heard the disembodied person.
That's right.
So yeah, so
that's cool.
Well, speaking of hearing things, Ron pulled together about a minute worth of highlights from the event the other night. Jamie, I know you haven't heard it. You ready for me to run that?
Of course.
I tried to grab a couple of clips. Like I was listening to our schedule for November and December. We're supposed to be quiet. December is going to be. November got busier than we expected. And so I haven't had the amount of time I wanted to, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw something together because Chad went out of his way to give us this elegant intro, and that does not go unnoticed. So I have to do something. So I carved out some time, and so maybe just pull some stuff. And some of these they're not super long. A couple of them are multi-word phrases, but they were interesting and they were clear.
So. Well, let me run that video. And Ron, I think we only had one or two things that we pulled together that overlapped, which is pretty amazing. So,
all right.
So, all right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and run that, and we'll see what happens here.
Chocolates?
There's nobody here who understands German. Could you speak to us in English?
Yeah, so did I. Did you hear that?
Second time I heard cigarette.
Yeah.
So that was sort of fun.
A couple of quick ones.
I'm wondering if I'm the old person they're talking about staying up too late.
I thought they meant us.
I thought they meant all of us.
Yeah. These old people stay up.
Besides Chad Jr.
Yeah, he brings down the curve way low. So,
and Kyle's joined us. Hey, Kyle, good to see you.
Hey, Kyle.
Hey, Kyle.
Kyle's a good dude.
So
we have to go visit Kyle again.
So yeah, it was a fun night. I was only in one session, so I only had could only grab clips from that one session. Ron, if you get a chance and can email me those the other sessions, that'd be great. I'd love to listen to them.
Yeah, I may transfer them too, because there were a few people from the event that did reach out to me on email, like I told them they could. And I'm going to send them all the sessions too.
Okay.
I'll do the same. I'll probably do it all in the same email. I'll copy all you guys on the same WeTransfer, like I sent you that thing today, to be able to go over. I'm sure there's more stuff there. We had one very profound sitting where the one mother-daughter heard stuff that was very relevant to a very personal, tragic event in their family. They came up to us afterwards and told us. We had heard and called out all these things that they had heard, or they called them out during the session, and we had heard them also. And it was, to us, clear speech. As a cohesive message, it did not hit us that way because we didn't know the context within which it was making sense to them more and more and more. But it was.
Yeah, it was resonating with them, right? I think it was. I was hearing a lot of stuff and I was repeating it, and I could see both of them going. But I just thought because they heard the same thing that I was hearing and that others were hearing, but it was, they were resonating with it.
Yeah, it was.
And we don't want to go into details about the personal experience for them, but I think afterwards we were talking about this, and it became a personal experience for you guys because I think it helped bring them closure. And you said we talked about how that's what some of this is all about, is bringing closure to people and making connections for people. And
I personally truly believe that. I believe that we are blessed to be able to do this, to help people. I think if we choose to do something that is not what it's meant to be, like for our own benefits, perhaps, it may get taken away from us. I really truly believe that. I do. I think this is meant to help people.
Hey, Robert. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, that's funny because that's Marcello Bacci, who made direct radio voice most famous. That was what he did for in a ballpark of 20 years or so. Was he had sittings in Grosseto, Italy, and parents, mostly who lost children, would come. He didn't know who was coming. He would get the voices and names of the children, and he would give these people these moments. And so when we started, we saw his work. We saw Dr. Annabelle Cardoso's work, etc., and other folks that were doing direct radio voice, and we were just wondering if we could even do that. Is that something we could replicate? Never mind build upon, try to move forward. We just thought, can we even do that?
Right.
And the purpose for which he was doing it at that time, obviously we thought it was admirable, but we didn't think, well, we're going to go on that path. But that's where we ended up, because the more we do this, and we're in historic places where the Revere family was, or George Washington was, and people want to talk to Uncle Phil. They don't care about Paul Revere,
Right.
And then we realized that was maybe the higher calling. So,
I mean, people don't realize that most of these events we don't get paid for. We do it because we want to do it. And if the people hosting it or the place wants to give us a little something for our time, I mean, we won't say no, obviously, but it's not something that is expected. It's not. We do this on our own time and our own money. That's, if they do give us something, we appreciate it and thank you, but it's not expected.
yeah,
So people don't realize that.
We're cared for well by the people we work for, Jotniks included. Obviously, it takes time and expenses to get somewhere, and so we get the respect, and people do try to do what they can for us, but
which you guys do, obviously, you guys.
But we're always,
but it's not like I said, we don't expect it.
We're always open. We'll work with anybody. We don't have it needs to be this amount, or we're not leaving the house figure for
no green M&Ms or anything.
Well, no M&Ms.
Yes.
Yeah, everyone has their price. M&Ms is his.
So I made that joke, Jamie, to Chris Allgood from our podcast Entity Voices, that if we came down to his house, the Montgomery house in Washington, we all converged at their house in North Carolina. And I made a bunch of 2 or 3 silly demands I needed, and one of them was yellow M&Ms that said "All God" on them, because his name is Allgood, but he had a phone solicitor to call him Christoph Allgod instead of Chris Allgood. And him and his wife, Audra, had a little container of yellow M&Ms that said Allgod on them.
He got them.
He got them for me.
It was funny.
So I'm careful to make demands now.
we had an early iteration of this podcast that our team created called Coffee Talk, and different hosts and so forth. But I and another team member were our first guest officially, and I did the same thing. I was totally joking, like totally joking. Like I had to have green M&Ms, I had to have something else. I forget what it was, and then a certain kind of coffee, because we had coffee literally. It's in the name. And sure enough, the green M&Ms at least showed up. And I wasn't ungrateful. You know what I mean? I mean, M&Ms are M&Ms. So, but yeah,
That's
it's
right.
funny like how people can be. Um, I guess I want to say particular,
Yeah.
but have requests or demands of places without, like you said, won't leave the house without it, the guarantee. And it's like,
Well, and it was like we were talking afterwards, and some people want $100 for a signature. It's like,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's we're all people. We all do the same thing. We just, some of us are just doing it as a hobby, like Jamie said, and some people have made it big. But we still investigate the same way. We use the same equipment. We don't get a different result because there is no way of guaranteeing a result. So,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
just a real quick aside to that, and then back over the summer, I forget when it was, Ted, like the beginning of the summer, we were at a friend's party, a pool party, and we found in the course of sitting near each other, which of course we hang out, right? We're there, and we were sitting kind of close together, and somebody came over and asked if we were the people from Jotniks, and of course we're like, yeah, like how do you know that? And apparently they're fans of the podcast, and wanted to have selfies with us. And I'm like, this is the most strange thing, because it's us,
I know it
Yeah.
is. It's strange.
we got faces for radio, so first of all, how do we recognize us like at all?
Mhm.
And then second to, I mean, obviously we're video, so I get it, but we can see us. But
Right.
it was a very humbling moment to like, oh wow, somebody actually likes what we do. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was never a thought to say you need, no, or this or that, like I was like, well, hell yeah, of course.
So, well, Jamie, speaking of being recognized, that's going to lead me into a clip here.
Okay.
So I just have audio clips. I didn't have time to throw together video. I appreciate you being able to do that, Ron, but I was going through things last night at about 10:30, 11 o'clock, because I was sending you some clips.
Yeah.
So I didn't have anything time to put that together, but let me just play some of this audio back. This is the first clip, and see what you hear.
Chocolate? Jamie. Did you say Jamie? Yes. Hey.
I think I muted you, Ron. You're going to there you go.
Yeah, it was a little echoey coming through the speaker.
Yeah, I think we're getting some feedback, but or loop back, but I definitely heard Jamie, right? It was because that was the one that we had that overlap, the chocolate. But I definitely heard Jamie, and then right after that they said chocolate and Jamie again, and then it sounded like they laughed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that's the echo thing I heard.
No, there was a little echo to it.
So
I would never laugh about chocolate, just for the record.
I know that of you.
It wasn't me. I am the one. I heard that too, and I'm standing there. I was with you guys all night, and I heard it too, and it perked. When you hear your name, you kind of go, ooh, you perk up.
Yeah.
And I did say, hey.
Yeah, I heard that.
This is great. I can tell you, in all of the years I've been doing this, that I've only ever heard my name one other time, and we were at the Haldeman Mansion nearby here in Bainbridge, PA. We were the host team there as well, and we were in a room called the servants' quarters, because it really was where the servants of the house lived. And with a oh my gosh, what did we have on? We had a device that we were. I'm drawing a total blank. This is terrible. This is my age right now. But we introduced ourselves like good investigators do, going around the room, and then I said, "Can you name someone here in the room?" And clear as day, that's Jamie. Now, Jamie's not an unusual name, but it's certainly not as common as, say, James or Bob or Steve or something. So hearing that was unique, and I was certainly the only one with a J even in my name. So it was like, wow. But that was years and years ago. and to hear your name coming out of any device is super cool. Of course, you kind of feel like you might be in trouble first, like, ooh, you perk up, but after that though, you kind of like, now you're intrigued, you want to follow it for more.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you guys, Staticom did not disappoint at all that night. So with all of the sessions,
we're glad to hear that. It's like everything else that's in this field. It's not a guarantee to what level it'll connect or perform. We've never had it do nothing, even when we've had technical problems. I've got recordings with really good vocals off of working through when it was skipping and it wasn't right.
We always get the voices, but there are times when we don't get as many voices, right. And there are times when you get those really big wow moments, like the wow moment that we had with the ladies here. We've had bigger ones, and you think that one was good. We've had bigger ones, but we don't always get those, right? No. Sometimes we get, it's the same thing. Yeah.
So that leads me to a question, and I have a couple for you. So bear with me on here. I think it's a good time to ask.
Yeah.
Has the wow factor of the things that you capture worn off yet? Like, it's just like you expect it now.
No, that's a great question, because one might think that's possible, but they're not all wow moments. Anything we hear, we're still kind of like, whoa. But
the only thing that maybe I'm used to is them saying our names. I'm kind of used to that. It doesn't shock me anymore. But anything else shocks me. Anything else shocks me.
But even that, sometimes circumstantially, like she would come down to get water from being in bed, and I'm still up tinkering with it. And she walks into the room and a voice goes, "Hi, Lourdes," and she goes,
yeah, but before I used to like freak out. I'm like, oh my God. And then things would come through and I couldn't hear it because I got too excited. So now I'm used to it, that if they do say it, I actually respond to see if they give me another response back instead of drowning it out, because I'm like,
that happens to all of us.
Yeah.
So, I've got about 7 more clips actually, and they're not all long, but this one's about 27 seconds. I think it's one of the first ones that we understood, that was clear for my group, at least that night. So I'm going to go ahead and start. If you guys want to mute, everybody want to mute so we don't have the echo thing. Let's give that a shot. So
yeah. If you can hear me, can you say white noise?
When if you guys hear something, you can repeat it. Did you hear?
Get permission.
You have permission to speak from us.
No, we need to ask Eloise for permission to speak to the kids.
Oh.
So I think what I heard listening to it closer and through headphones is get permission for me, please.
Okay.
Which was really cool. And actually, I think I didn't hear white noise, but I heard noise. So it's just it's amazing how many things get strung together in that little bit. But what we've learned over the years investigating at Bube's, and this is thanks to Heather, because Heather is sensitive and has made the connection with Eloise, is he gets upset when we start investigating and talking with the girls and don't ask his permission. He's very protective, and he wants that. So we feel like that was one of the girls saying, you need to get permission before you start talking to me. Or at least that's how I interpreted it.
It's like the rules of the house kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I got that.
Understood. Well, you guys know the turf, so.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's just interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah.
Jamie,
I did hear the word permission. I did hear the word.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to hear it here like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And that gives you another aspect of, because I know a lot of times with the videos, when you annotate stuff, people go, well, you're making them hear. It's power of suggestion. And I know Tony Rathman had done something before when he put up entirely the wrong words, purposely, just so you could show that you can't make people hear something that's not plausible based on the sounds and cadence that comes through. It has to be pretty damn close. It has to be like it could be that. It has to sound like language. But But what it also does is it not only tells you what we heard, but it gives you the opportunity to know when to start listening.
It helps you from the distractions because there's
because 70-80% of communication with people is visual.
Yeah.
And we're not afforded that. So when the audio just starts and it's pretty quiet, but there's a little bit of that, noise floor you'll hear creeping in now and then, it does make it almost like you don't know when to focus in to listen. But some of the words, when they're clear enough, obviously jump out and you catch them.
And then sometimes what happens is there may be two voices in there. So we may have heard one, but then someone else hears another. But if you don't know which one, you see what I'm saying? So we annotate it so you know what, like he said, to look at. Because if there is another voice, it gets too distracting.
Yeah.
If you don't know where to listen, you don't hear anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we've all had two people, like two people talk to us at the same time, and Chad was over yesterday and I was talking to him, and then, one of the kids was talking to you as well. You remember this? And, you're like, you don't know where you're bouncing, and your attention isn't driven to one or the other. It's kind of distracted by both, and you hear nothing.
Yeah.
It's like people who say they can multitask. That means they're good at not doing two things.
Right. No, I agree.
So
it does help with the when to focus, I think, a lot.
Yeah.
The when to dial in.
Because let's say a good example is, let's say there's a voice that came in first, and then another voice comes in later that overlaps. But if someone had caught this voice first, but someone else didn't, but caught this one, and see, there's the problem. So that the annotation, you got it so they'll know when to listen, exactly like you said. Yeah. And then another thing that I noticed, by doing that, people then can pick up the other voices, because they already hear this, but then they heard that voice, and then they'll tell us there's another voice in there, and they'll tell us what it is. Yeah. And then we hear it and like, oh yeah, there is another voice in there. So
yeah, well, that brings me to another question, if I may jump in here quick with it. So how frequently would you say you have conversations with multiple people at the same time, or in the context of your line questioning in the session?
You mean in the Staticom voices? You mean, or the?
Yeah, I mean, so you say, if you're here, can you say white noise? So how many times have you clearly or distinctly gotten different? And having been with you now, finally, right? I could tell the difference in voices. Like, I know. I mean, you can tell male, female. Sometimes you can definitely tell in the tones. So you got somebody here, you got somebody there. But at the same time, because it's like this is a conduit all of a sudden, right? All of a sudden, hey, you can hear me. So the rush of activity. Like everybody's just trying to get to you. Does that come up at times where that has led to, I guess, the challenge of trying to decipher, what all's going on? Because you're only hearing, again, we're hearing it all loud on a speaker in the room. But you may not catch all of it, but as you've gone back to review the evidence, more closely or more detail, listening, have you had that I guess good problem of having multiple people coming through, in and about the same time, where it's just a jumble?
Well, just like any other devices, when you hear things in real time, you hear it, and then if you record and you listen later, you hear more voices. The same thing happens to us. Yeah, same thing.
So frequently then. Okay.
Yeah.
It'll happen in real time too. Sometimes also, where we'll catch different voices at the same time. Like she was saying, that they overlap, and then somebody will hear something called out, and then someone hears something right after that called out. I guess the one thing that I always like to hang my hat on when that kind of confusion happens is that none of the voices are supposed to even be there, and that to me, sometimes even when you get into the conversation of clarity of the vocals and stuff, I'm like, that's always the goal. I know Tony Rathman spends a lot of time on that. We spend a lot of time on that to try to make them clearer, because obviously the better it is, the more likely to have conversations we'll be able to get to. But the amazement is still the fact that there's anything vocal happening at all. And when you can hear a word or a phrase or a couple phrases that are, like you said before, timed, relevant, conversasational, that's the part that doesn't ever get old. It's like, how is this? It's facilitating through the white noise and resonance. It's crazy.
Because that's what made me fall in love with the paranormal. Right? I grew up with the paranormal, but it scared me, honestly, and I believed in it. It's not, but that's another story. But when it was introduced back to my life, that's EVPs is the best thing. Like, how can you deny? Because I trust myself, and if I'm and I trust him, and you're there, and nobody spoke, and you have a third voice in there, that is fascinating. And the only other thing that comes close to it, or maybe even as equal, is what we do.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love it so much, and I feel blessed that we have it, because it's white noise. There is no radio, there is no sweeping, there is no nothing. It's in a closed circuit. There's voices. How? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Sorry, I had to
No,
do my little happy rant. If that's a thing.
Happy rants are too rare. Go on.
Yeah, it's true.
I've got a short 6-second one here that sort of it talks about what Jamie, or highlights what Jamie was saying earlier about how many sometimes you get multiple answers, and maybe I'm just going to play it. I'll actually play it twice because it's so short. So let's go ahead and listen to this one.
My favorite color is blue. What's your favorite color? My favorite color is blue. What's your favorite color?
So I know that night I heard orange.
Yeah.
But somebody else heard green. And there was, because right after the one that sounded like orange, there was another answer that came. And even maybe before orange, there was an answer that came. So I think that's sort of what you were talking about. Like you ask a question in a room and don't direct it to somebody, you're going to get answers from everybody.
We can get, yep.
You're going to get 6 people saying, my name's whatever. So
that does happen when we get different voices, because the question is vague, right? What's your favorite color? And this one answers that one. And what's your favorite drink? So yeah, that does happen.
Yeah, the orange and green, I do remember that coming through.
So it's just interesting.
It is interesting.
I want to say this here too, because that gentleman speaking was a guest, and what I really found inspiring from the entire time I spent with you guys was the engagement and willingness of engagement that all of the guests had in each session. The step in and asking questions. We do this all the time with the public, and I kind of say this to be lighthearted, but you never know who you're going to get when you have an open event. People are putting their cash down and they're buying a ticket, and so obviously there's intent to be there, but not everybody understands what they're coming for. And there's always, the he of the group or the she of the couple, either way, who is there because the other one said so, right?
Yeah.
And more times than not, they don't believe, or they pretend at least that they don't, or say they don't, and they present that way. And then, it becomes somewhat of a challenge at times to get folks to come forward to engage. And we always say it's your investigation. The more you participate, the more you'll get from it, and it's about positive energy, right? But not everybody's going to present it. And the challenge is then, with all the time we have in a session is, how to keep it moving and keep everybody engaged. No one's fell asleep that I'm aware of, at least in a public event we've had. Some of our private sessions with our own investigators, folks have fallen asleep, Eric Bergen. But that session, all of those sessions were so engaging with folks who just came forward and just wanted to be in the moment. And that's really what it's all about, right? And it was so fun to have that happen, and it's Staticom, because you get direct. I joked with Daryl last week. I saw you guys at the curb when you came in. Your cart full of stuff, and up lugging up all those steps.
Yeah.
And I didn't see anything other than what was in boxes and bags and so forth. But when I came upstairs eventually to the ballroom, I looked over at the table and I saw this stuff set up, and I thought, oh, cool, we have a DJ. I was like, we have live entertainment, and we really did have live entertainment because there was action happening with every session, and that I still can't get past that in a very good way. That what doesn't look like much brings so much to the experience that folks have when they're in with the Staticom session.
Because it's not it's not only about the connection with spirit, it's about connection with all of us, because we are all spirit, we're all one and the same. It's the connection that we make with the public. We love it because it's the same thing as the connection that we're making with spirit. And you know, I love when a skeptic comes in. A good example is that lawyer that came in. One day we did an event, and this lawyer came in. He was nice, but he didn't want to be there. He didn't believe. He was there with his wife. By the end of the night, that man was asking questions. He was asking so many questions that after he finished, I said, "You're a lawyer, aren't you?" Because I can tell by the way he was asking questions. He goes, "How'd you know?" I said, "I'm a court reporter."
Plus, he kept saying sidebar, which is weird.
No, but connections were made. See, that's my point. Connection. That's the whole point.
Thank you, Michael.
Well, that leads me to another question, Chad. I'm sorry, I'm cutting off your other clips here, but it strikes me, and I do it. So I'm gonna be first to put my hand up and say I'm guilty here. But why do people speak so loudly when having EVP sessions or using Staticom? Do we think perhaps that the spirits are deaf as well as dead? I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? We tend to project, and like if we're just having a conversation, and Lourdes, you said it very well. We're talking to people, right? We're all the same in the same category here. We're just not seeing everyone. Why is it that we're yelling so much?
I will give you one rational explanation for that, and sometimes I do spur this on, is that based on the setup of the room and where people are, if somebody way in the back asks a question and then they go, "What color is my shirt?" and then a voice comes through and says red. If you don't hear the "what color is my shirt" because they were far away from the microphone recording this session, all you have is a voice saying red. That's anomalous, but the A is only an A when it's after the Q end. So sometimes I will encourage people to project or put the voice out there because it's got to get on the recording in order to have the timing, the relevance, to have the Q&A part of it. So, but just yell in an EVP session when everybody's close together or yes, no, then I agree with you. And see, look, see, Amanda's backing me up with, I put myself under the bus and she made sure I was there. See, right?
You have to project.
But she's right.
Yeah.
She's right. I did. And that's why I do it, because sometimes you get a recording and you hear a voice go green and you go, where was the question? It makes a difference if you have the capture, because that's what makes it an interaction. If you just talk to yourself, that's not technically communication, but when you talk to somebody else or something else, that's the goal. So we want to have every voice represented on there.
We project our voice respectfully.
Yeah.
we're not
Frankie,
we're not confrontational or anything like that. We just want to be able to get the question into the recorder.
Right. Okay. There you go, Albert. Never whisper. Right.
And this is a good point too. You don't want to whisper because you don't want to
of course,
it thinking that you're picking up somebody else. So
yeah, and we have gotten whispery EVPs on the microphones while doing a Staticom session that we can tell is not coming out of the speaker.
Right.
And there's I can't remember which clip it is that I have. I feel like there's a voice that was a whispery EVP, not Staticom. I don't know if it's one I'd have to go back through and listen again closely. But I had that. I was like, oh, I wonder if that happens. So
yeah. And it does, and we say this, we're teaching as we go, right? Because again, we have folks who have never been, and that's a question at the beginning, who's done this before, and it's a mix, always a mix. But for those who haven't, we teach. And the first thing, the good rules, introduce yourself at the beginning of a session. If you make a noise, own the moment. It doesn't matter if you're talking, coughing, sliding something, bumped into, it's dark. So you're going to bump into stuff. If you made a noise, just say that was me. And you save yourself the hassle and the frustration and the false hope. Probably the worst part is the false hope that you have a capture when it's really one of us just being normal people doing the stuff that we do. And all too often though, folks forget, they're in the moment, right? And they forget. And, we hear it and then we say, okay, that was me. I'll say it. I'll own the moment for them. So we go back to listen. We're not false hoping that moment was something cool. And it's really just somebody slid a chair.
Mm-hmm.
The most guilty people of that are the most polite ones. And I tell them, it's true because I tell them all the time, if you happen to bump someone, don't go, excuse me. Just say, excuse me, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. I would rather that than you go, excuse me. No, don't do that. But I get it though, because they're so respectful. They don't want to disturb, and they just bump somebody. Just say it out loud. Say it full voice, so we know.
It's counterintuitive, like
Yeah.
you're in a theater at a movie. And you want to tell somebody, hey, did you forget to turn off the stove? You don't want to be like, hey, in full voice, is the stove on?
Yeah. Here we want you to say it out loud.
You don't want to do that. So the tendency is to whisper out of politeness. They're not being rude, but it's counterintuitive in this environment to say it in a whisper.
And I know they forget, because they do forget. Yeah. But, they are the most guilty. Yeah. But we love you. Be polite.
So, I've got two separate clips here that are we were someone, I think it was actually Shane, Jamie, asked how the spirit saw us, and we went on for a little bit on this. So I'm going to play the first clip. I think it was the first clip, and then we'll listen, and then I'll play the second one after we talk about it. So here's the first one I got.
Could you answer the gentleman's question? Do you see us as full figures or as white light? Or neither?
Honestly, I heard neither. Not neither. I heard neither.
I muted you, Jamie, so you're going to unmute yourself there.
It's funny. I got a little pop-up that said your mic was muted by the producer, Chad Thomas. I'm like, whoa, he got a title.
Yeah, he produced.
Nice.
So yeah, that one is, it's funny because I feel like I heard them repeating the question to them among themselves.
Okay.
Like,
does that happen as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's hard. I'm going to tell you why. Well, we're having a hard time hearing because we're using the speaker, and he has it positioned facing that way, because if not, it's overpowering. So we're having a little trouble. But that does happen. They do repeat questions and then they answer. That happens a lot.
Yeah, we have had that happen.
All right.
Interesting. As a tactic, repeating the question is two things. One, it is a sign of acknowledgement that you understand the question. And two, and most importantly, it's your stall tactic to give you time to process what your answer is going to be. Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting because alive and well people do it. So why wouldn't folks who passed do it as well?
I think it's interesting for other reasons, but I've thought of that because it's just interesting because that shows that there seems to be what appears to be thought process, right? They're processing it. So it's very interesting. Yeah, I would agree.
And just like we need to slow it down, maybe they need to speed it up so they can, understand it. and
then what I love too is that they said it differently. They said neither. You said neither, and they said neither.
Right.
So it wasn't just repeating, but it said it the way, or the spirit said it the way they would say it. Mm-hmm. I love when that happens too.
Yeah, that happened. I think I sent you the two clips too from the My Haunted Manor. In one of those, it does that. I got the picture of the sign that I asked about after the fact, so it's not in the video. But I asked them to read the sign, and they gave me exactly what's on the sign, but reworded. Yeah, which is an exact match for what we're talking about, where you're getting the context. But it was after processing it. It interpreted the question and then gave me the answer, but not verbatim per what the sign said.
Not,
but the message, the
sign, but yeah,
it didn't actually read, but it imparted the same message. Yeah.
So let me play the second part of this, where we heard a different word, and I think we all heard it that night as well. So let me play that and see what we come up with.
I heard emotion.
I heard that too.
So that one, it definitely seems like there was discussion going on, and with it. And again, I think we got a couple answers, but the clear one was emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you notice the common denominator in a lot of these things. Here's them.
I think after the emotional, honestly, I think I hear focus, stupid. I hear like there's some other stuff in there, but emotional was the clear.
Yeah. I also heard throughout this line of questioning, listen to me.
They say that a lot too.
They keep saying, listen to me. And it was interesting. So
yeah.
it's like, we're giving you a message. You need to listen to it. So,
Yeah, you'd be surprised. We get focused and listen a lot. And you'd be surprised sometimes, and this happens everywhere we go. You get everybody listening, but then like somebody hears something or they remember something, and then like side conversations break out like in the back area of who's in the room, and it's way more of a distraction than people think. And I've always told her that that for public events, obviously I sit back because it's not about us, and I want them to enjoy it. So that's partly what bothers me is they're being robbed of their own experience sometimes by these side conversations. But I told her that I would put money down if you went over every recording we've ever done from Direct Radio Voice in 2019. I have the least amount of spoken words on any recording or the collection because I try to listen so much more than I talk for those reasons, because you can miss things. Sometimes you hear a couple of words and then there's a whole other thing that came on the tail end of that.
Right.
Because you're reacting to that first part when that little pause comes, the rest of it gets.
Yeah. And that's why I really liked when you and Tony were doing the Facebook sessions. And I know it takes a lot of resources, and it's been a while since you've been able to do that because of some changes you made. But I liked that because you could listen and people would type what they heard, but it still gave you the opportunity to listen and hear other things.
Amanda's right. I saw in the chat. She said they told us to shut up. They did say shut up a few times that night.
Yeah,
she's not wrong.
I guess if you're dealing with collective consciousness, right? They like to say shut up. They like to say be quiet. They like to say bad words. We get all of that I consider is like the regular stuff. Like I don't get so excited anymore with that stuff. I get excited with more of the timing and relevance, of things.
Do you remember that night during the session I was there? We had somebody in the one of the guests say, "Could you please be quiet because there's a lot of conversations going on right now?" And they were talking to the spirits because there were like 4 or 5 different things happening from the spirit side, but there were also 3 or 4 conversations going on the human side, and everybody's like, "Oh." And it was just like everybody got quiet for a second,
and the people took it seriously.
Yeah, I remember the one lady said that. Yeah, and I applauded her doing that because it silenced everybody.
Yeah,
but it really is like none of the words should be there, like I said before. So
right,
when we always say if you hear something, go ahead and call it out. Oh, I heard this or I heard that. But then it spawns off into these conversations about other stuff, and then the next thing you know there's like 35 seconds of dialogue that you're not hearing the recording or what's coming through.
But it's understandable. I mean, I have a soft spot for that because I remember when we started, I was that person. I would get very excited. It's hard not to get excited. There are still times, like we say, we get super excited still. It's hard not to. So we do understand. We do understand.
Yeah, that's we never get upset about it. I want them to have the most of the experience they can. So the more you hear, the more I feel like value they get out of it, the more a heightened experience they get out of it when they hear more dialogue, more interaction. Yeah. So those side conversations are not going to be the takeaways. I always like or hope that they stay to a minimum.
Yeah.
I don't think I can probably count on one hand over the years the number of people who've came to an event by themselves as a single individual. Right. So you're always with a person or people, right? So you have a team, you have a group, and when you're having a positive experience,
right, Jamie?
Well, okay, but you want to share that, right? The excitement, the exhilaration, the wow moment,
right?
Of it. You want to share it with the people you're there with, and because you're there, well, unless you're that dude who got drug along, right? You're there because you want to be, and you want to be immersed in the moment, I think, and at least I would believe that, and so you share that, and that's human nature, right? And therefore, like when activity happens, it doesn't matter if it's a K2 device or a REM pod going off or a cat ball of light, some sensory device, triggers, or you hear an audible sound, you got everybody starts buzzing at the because that's the excitement,
Right.
and that's really cool. I mean, I agree, it gets cluttered then and cloudy, but that
because
element, wow,
there's been instances when the people that are talking are shy and they're hearing something that's personal to them, because that's happened to us too.
Yeah.
And so they're whispering and it is disrupting, but that's because they just heard something that they believe is a loved one, and they're like, oh my god, that's remember this, remember that, and they're piecing things together and they're talking about it.
And you don't want to take that away from them either.
Exactly. So you see, like, it's understandable,
I want to come clean on something. So well, a lot of things I probably should come clean on, right? But here in this moment, I'm going to come clean on this. I had I guess, a certain understanding of what to expect from my first experience with Staticom. That it would be contact and engagement with the folks who we know, the Boobies specifically, and the things that we know about the brewery. I was not expecting nor prepared for the external things, like the second session where the group had that direct engagement. It was near and dear to them.
Yeah.
And the power that had.
Mm.
And it was deep. It was real, and kudos to you guys to be able to navigate that on the regular, because it's different for everyone, of course. And but once people start understanding the pattern and get the connection, how do you go from there? And that could take the whole night, right? It could totally derail whatever you're there to do or intend to do. And I get there's a challenge in that, but you guys handled that situation so very well because you have experience doing it. And
Well,
you had the care to keep doing it with that family as well.
I recognize that feeling that you're feeling, because that's what I felt with our first experience. And the young lady was 15 years old and she heard her grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And even talking about it now gets me. That first experience was a very deep, emotional, like, made me realize, holy moly, what do we have here and what just happened?
Yeah. That my third book, the Digital Seance Initiative, and now the sessions we do like that, which we call them digital seances or TDSI, and the Rathmans do them out in Arizona also. That's what that was born of. It was born of giving people the quiet and the focus and the opportunity to have those moments, because like I said before, you were in this place that Paul Revere grew up in, or his nephew or grandson, and people want to communicate with the other side, with the people that they know more so than the historic figures. I'll tell you that to this coming weekend, we're at the Jersey Para-Unity Expo. We have an ITC exhibit room for the 2 days in one of the rooms that's off the main area. We were there 2 years ago, I think it was, and there was a gentleman there he spent the whole day with us. Older gentleman, had a walker. The following year, he came to the expo. He didn't come in our room at all, probably because of the year before he missed the whole thing. He did nothing but our room. But that first year, he's with us, and he's there the whole time. And he asks some questions, and he's just listening, and he's hearing stuff. And then he's finally going to leave, and he goes, all right, well, thanks. He goes, this has been really cool. If my wife comes through, tell her I said, hey, a lot of the mediums that I talked to in the main room said that she's around me a lot. And then Lourdes goes, wait, hold on. Maybe hang around for a minute. He goes, what was your wife's name? And then he told her. And I said, yeah, let's see. Maybe we'll get her to come through. So he comes back over, and I don't think anybody even asked a question yet. And I heard a female voice, not loud, but one of those ones that's softer a little bit, but clear. And I heard a female voice go, that's my husband. And I kicked my chair out and stood up and went, what? And walked out of the room. And her and Anthony Simonelli were like, what just happened to him? I went, did you guys not hear that? And then I played it afterwards. That's my husband. Right at that time, I was like, that's nuts. And that was probably like the little girl thing was for her. That for me was like this can be powerful in a very positive way for people. Yeah. And that's the most meaningful part of it for us now, is if we can give those moments, if those things happen. They tend to happen at least once every outing. sometimes not, but for the most part, more frequently than we probably would have expected.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. That's
I
heavy.
know.
It's
It
so
is.
cool though. It's very cool. I mean, that's this goes back to the beginning of this whole conversation, right? It's you guys. It's the personalities and the kind hearts that you both have that are willing to go to that distance and length and take the time and provide the compassion and care that is needed to allow that to happen. You're not in it for the get through the thing. It takes what it takes, and you're going to spend the time, and you have the intuition to ask the good questions, and not only of the guest but also of the others, and it comes through. It really comes through. Um,
We appreciate
Yeah,
that.
we
do.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
We feel like, the notoriety and the acknowledgement we're getting more and more from doing this. It's still more valuable to us when we give people those moments. There's a testimonials page on our website that I started building just from last year's Paraunity Expo, because a couple people had these really profound moments like that. 3 of them, I think, in that same day.
Yeah.
And they wrote the testimonials and put them out. And that's, we can't lead them. We can't lead them in a leading witness kind of way where we know what to ask or what to try to get for them, and we don't even know them, and they're hearing stuff, and then it's like she'll hear like, I heard this name, and the lady's like, that was the name of my son who passed at age 6 or whatever, and I'm actually carrying his baby blanket with me, and the lady had it in her purse. Stuff like that. I mean, we have no way to know any of these things, but
and that's why a lot of times I do repeat what I hear, even if people don't hear it, because if they're not used to listening, when I say the words, a lot of time they'll resonate. Not a lot, but when there's someone resonating, they'll say, oh, they'll get surprised. So it's like almost like if you take away the Staticom, they will be they will think I'm a medium, that I know things that but
Right.
it's because I'm hearing it through Staticom. And I repeat it, and they resonate with it. It's so amazing when that happens. It's just a beautiful thing.
yeah, it's more valuable to us to impact somebody in a profound way than it is to impress them in some kind of a technological way. I mean, I think it's more, we could do all the hand waving and stuff and talk about this and that and results, but you can't match that. I mean, that's something we're grateful anytime we have those moments or provide those for people with no idea it was going to happen when we got there.
No idea. I guess that's what makes it so profound, because we really was just doing it for the research, and then that happened. And it just makes me and us, but I'm speaking personally, it makes me just want to keep doing it more and more and more, because I just love it. I want to do this to help people, because I think that's what it's meant for.
I can't argue that. You
Yeah.
can keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Ted, do you have any more clips?
I have one more clip that I wanted to play from Boobies, and then I have the 2 clips that Ron had shared from the Haunted Manor that I wanted to just share, because it's what you guys are doing a couple times, several times now. So, but let me play this last clip. We get a lot of questions about whether the recipe is hidden in the in the brewery.
We ask that question a lot too, though, right?
We ask the question a lot. So, knowing that, Jamie, I want you to listen very closely when it comes to the end of the clip and see if you hear what I think I hear. So we're going to go ahead and get yourself muted. I'm going to play this, and we'll see what happens.
Well, could Eloise hide his recipe somewhere in this building? I heard maybe. It's buried somewhere? I thought I heard something buried.
What did you hear, Jamie? Anything?
That damn producer muted me again. Jeez. I'm not sure what I heard, but I want to say this, and you guys who are at least right now are watching, I couldn't. I laughed out loud when you both heard it, and you both went.
Yeah.
You visibly moved. It's like I love that. I saw that happen often. With
Mhm.
you and guests, of course, too. When something was clear, I didn't quite catch it. My sound quality here is pretty crappy. I'll admit it.
Well,
So
what I'm
I'll
hoping
stop
to
there.
do is post these on the Jotniks page once I have time to add video and the words that I'm hearing. I heard it. It wasn't real clear throughout the end or throughout the clip, but at the very end, I heard "You should not ask."
Yeah.
Okay.
I heard the "you should not" part clearly. The "ask" I wasn't sure about.
Well, you did say it. I heard something else, but that's what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
maybe,
before that, I thought it said upstairs. There is an upstairs, isn't there?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Above,
I did
above where
hear
you were, yes.
upstairs. Yeah. Before that, though, like I heard upstairs.
yeah, there were several things throughout there. And there's so many voices answering. It sounded like two or three different people answering, and I felt like Bube or Aloise was like, "No, you should not ask this. I'm not going to tell you." So
Todd, that's
We ask every time we're there. Like eventually I get tired of the same questions too.
Yeah.
mhm.
So yeah. So well, I have a question for you, and bear with me, Chad. So you were at a place that you didn't know, right? First time there, and I'm sure there's many of those places, right? But it goes to anywhere we go as investigators. You are having a different connection than most of us can have because it's in real time, right? So you're getting direct voice response, and in that, as you exit and leave for the time you're there, do you ever worry that somebody's going to say, "Hey, I really enjoyed this. I want to do more. I'm coming with you." Any fear from attachments, or what do you do to protect yourself as you leave to keep that from happening, or has it happened? There's a lot of questions. Sorry, a lot of questions.
No, that's good. We have not had an attachment issue with this. We've had a lot of experience that what I would say supports the idea of non-locality. We've had spirits come through or voices come through when Tony was doing a session, a digital seance out in Arizona, and tell us exactly how many attendees he had. We checked the next day. I said, "Did you have 40 people?" He's like, "Yeah." "How did you know?" "Because we ran at the same time, and then that was the number we got." So I don't know. Even and this gets deep now because when she mentioned before the idea of that we're communicating with consciousness, a collective consciousness of which we're all individual fractal parts of, but dissociated, so we're not all in the same head, right? We have our own identities. Uh, in that aspect of it, it doesn't necessarily, I think, limit itself to a location, which is why you could get somebody like Alois, who's known from the family from the location. Why you could get somebody like that mother-daughter did, who was personal to their lives and a very personal story. I think that's why those parameters are really hazy. Like we don't really know lines drawn anywhere as far as that goes with the contact. So the idea of an attachment would imply the idea of proximity and location. So within a collective consciousness, it wouldn't matter. I mean, they would still be able to
Okay.
make themselves known here. When we did the Montgomery House in North Carolina for a couple weeks before that, we kept getting what was the name? James, and what's the last name? Said Patterson.
Okay.
And then we got down there and there was a James Patterson's picture on the wall.
My opinion on that is that with Staticom or any other method, you're not going to get an attachment from trying to communicate with spirit. I think, and he's right, because I agree with him on that, on everything that he's saying. I think it's more of something mental that happens, and it's usually if someone's in a bad space and they're vulnerable, even if they realize it or not. It could be something that's deep within or something that's happening recently. But I think that's really what happens that gives the appearance of attachment, if that makes sense.
Okay.
That's what I think. you know.
Mhm.
And sometimes maybe I don't know. It's tricky because I know that there's something out there that happens that seems to be like an attachment. I don't think it's like he says, I don't think it's something that comes with you like that. But I do think it's something that has to do with consciousness and probably something that's within you and that's making you vulnerable to these mental consciousness things that are happening.
Right. See.
I think Amanda says it really well here that I believe the energy you put out is the energy you attract.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I think I can say this from I've never had an attachment that I'm aware of, at least, and you know, and I hear stories, and I know a story, and you know, one of our team members will be the first to say he was belligerent at an event at
Yeah, I'm going to draw a blank on it now.
sanatorium in Virginia. He had a bad night. You know, just took the wrong path on it and just got a little loud. And you know, his ride home was he had a very bad car accident. His car was nearly totaled. After getting home, some very odd things happened related to pets in the home. Just more so, just stuff. More so than anything normal. And it took a while, to figure that out and get it resolved. And he now knows, what not to do. And could it be coincidence? Of course, accidents happen.
I mean, not too, because I don't know the situation, but could there have been something perhaps behind the behavior of what he was showing?
Sure.
Right? So
I
see,
would think
that's
so, of course. I mean, there's a reason we all do anything, right?
right. So that's
Sure.
where I think there's that vulnerability and something with the mental consciousness and collectiveness that gives that appearance, and things happen, car accidents. I mean, I know maybe that's coincidence, but because it is a car accident, right? But
Yeah.
it could have just been a coincidence.
I remember
It's tricky.
coming back from that trip because I investigated with that person most of the night, and I remember driving through a park, a state park, or it was what's this? Was it the Skyline, Jamie?
Well, and the location is St. Albans Sanatorium,
Right.
and it's in Western Virginia, not West Virginia, but Western Virginia on the western side. So I think 81 would have been your most likely route, but
Well, I came back via
you
the
could have took the
Skyline
Blue Ridge
Drive
Parkway as
up
well.
the mountains, and I just because I needed that grounding to go. Like I actually got out and hugged a tree for a while because
I knew it. I knew you were a tree hugger.
I felt like I needed just to get grounded after that than the night before, and I just
Yeah.
needed. It was just weird.
Sure. And
And
we've all been there. It's we've all had, I think I could say this I say we all, I have had sessions or experiences at a place where it just got heavy. And, you almost have to go outside just to separate yourself, recharge your energies, however way you wish it to be, just to recalibrate yourself. And driving a very long distance after an event is always a challenge, no matter what, because you've stayed up all night, you've gotten very little sleep.
That's
Mhm.
right.
You're not at your strongest. You're
Right. You're
just we're
vulnerable.
not, and regardless if we're used to sleeping little or or lots, just the whole thing of it, it wears you down. And I can see where accidents happen like this. An accident is an accident. It's not on purpose. If you did it on purpose, it'd be called that. So I can set that aside. But the reality is, when you come into an event and you are wearing all of the stuff from the day or the week, your life, whatever that, the negative stuff, you're going to bring it with you. And that's why we try to do some grounding and centering, in advance of every session that we do, especially with the public, but certainly even with ourselves, we still do it behind the, when no one's watching, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And it just lets you get to that moment where, just a couple deep breaths might be all it takes,
Yes.
and take it as far as you wish, of course. But, and I'm never going to knock anybody who doesn't want to do that, of course. But I do see some value there. And
I
it
do it
helps
over
that
time.
tone.
In our backyard, and my piece is we're in this, we can see the city from here, New York City, but my piece is back. I love that, but my piece is back there where I see the bald eagles and the deer and the foxes, and sometimes I'll go barefoot and I put my feet on the, I
And the
love it.
skunks.
and the skunks.
And the skunk.
I love it all. It gives me
Yep.
peace. That's
Yep.
my peace. That's my grounding. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could always go to coincidence, and you can always say that that the
Maybe he was
accident
distracted with
just
something.
right. It could be you could, and you should go through the gamut of
Yes.
possibilities for it too. But ultimately, everything we know is through experience, right? And if again, this is for us coming from the perspective of being idealists, where reality fundamentally being mental. Everything is mentation. And everything that we perceive, even that we perceive as solid, is the image of something. It's not the thing itself. So the emotions from something affecting your thoughts, your emotions and thoughts affecting each other, and that interplay, that we go through that every day. So if there are emotional states or transpersonal states that are happening that was either maybe associated with the location, then it does stand the reason that those things could ultimately impinge upon or affect us as individuals. The same way you can sense in a room when somebody's angry, and maybe you don't even know who it is sometimes, but you can feel that tension. That's an impingement upon your dissociative boundary, which separates you from other people. But you can still pick up on that sometimes. So I think that there's a grander picture that all of this kind of ties together. And again, this is from an idealist perspective, but I think it's a lot more interconnected than we think when we separate things into physical states and physical parameters for the purposes of labeling and discussing. We lose the concept of the cohesiveness, the oneness that is of a lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
It does.
So, we had a request to replay that last recipe clip, so I'm going to do that. But then I think we've gone way past our hour, which I'm okay with.
Sorry.
But we do want to give Ron and Lourdes some time to talk about what they're doing. Their shameless plug section. But let me play that clip one more time and see what people hear. Here we go.
Well, did Eloise hide his recipe somewhere in this building? I heard maybe. It's buried somewhere? I thought I heard something buried. I think there's two voices because you guys here don't ask and
You
I
can ask, yeah.
there's a voice there's another voice in there saying something about voices. I'm not sure what it's saying. It's saying something about voices. But
I
that's,
definitely want to play with that a little bit and slow it down. See if I can slow it down and listen to it.
did you hear the upstairs or no? Like I heard a voice say upstairs. Did you hear it or no?
I didn't, but
Okay.
I'll listen to it again through headphones and see what I come up with.
The Todd and Carmela are saying there's two voices there as
Yeah, I
well.
hear two voices in there.
And before this slides, because we're getting a bunch of comments on there.
Yeah, I'm telling you, there's a couple of
Yeah.
voices. There
I'm
may
going
be
to answer this directly. Absolutely not. No way. There's no sleeping on this watch tonight. But then there is another comment here from Amanda. I hear it's buried and something about their asking, which I can imagine it's annoying because we ask all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a couple of voices answering in different ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
People are listening. Hearing different things.
Yeah.
And this is the beauty. And like I think somebody said earlier, perhaps it was Todd and Carmela, about you can go back, because this is obviously live, but also recorded. The ability to go back and we all know this. When you go back and you really intently scour and dive in, you certainly get more than you did on the first. It doesn't matter if you're watching a show, that you like or something, anything, you go back and watch it, you miss the details, and you notice some more stuff the second time or third time even. And I'm sure there's more in there than we're catching right now, of course, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Our goal is to push the pendulum to make the review process almost unnecessary.
Right.
You know when Staticom is the best? When it's silent. When you think it's not working, and we have like two or three voices only coming in, but then it gets quiet, and then you hear this one clear voice. That's when static. Like people don't realize when they hear all the voices because it's exciting. I know, But honestly, in my opinion, that's not when Staticom is at its best. It is fascinating though. It is. But it does make it harder to hear some things. So that's why we try to get it as silent as we can, but sometimes we don't have control over that because they start coming in.
It's fascinating because that's not something that a spirit box or an app does, where you can hear multiple voices or conversations. You don't have those experiences through those methods. So that does get a level of excitement. But if you can show one of the two clips from the manor I sent, you don't have to show them both. But the one about the buried woman, that's a perfect example of it, because in between the vocal responses to us, there's no noise. And sometimes with the exact same settings and everything else is the same, it sounds like what this clip sounds like. And sometimes with the same settings, it sounds like what that sounded like. So we don't know what the difference is. It's the same generators, the same levels, the same settings, the same everything. But in some of these cases, like you'll see on this one, there's nothing. And people have looked at the speaker before, is that thing on? And it is. But the filtration is working so effectively, and then the voices that really resonate and get amplitude are the ones that you're catching. And that's my favorite.
Me too.
When it's that quiet and then the voices are the only thing that emerge. It's not even half as difficult as listening to these to try to figure out what the words are or where they are. It's the only thing there is.
Right. Well, I think what's really cool about this clip is that somebody else was videotaping it or recording it while you were doing your reactions, which is really interesting. So
this will answer Jamie's earlier question about does it ever get old. I'm gonna say no, and if we had said yes, this would be the lying part right here.
So let me go ahead and play this. I don't think your mics are going to mute again, so go ahead and get that ready.
Yeah, I'll do it.
They started digging. What would they find?
Person.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Oh my God! Yeah, ask the person.
Is it a male or a female person? Male or female? Woman.
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 So that's an example of that. There was nothing in between the vocals. That's how I always want it to sound.
That was an exciting night. Yeah.
I gotta admit, I saw this clip actually on I think My Haunted Manors page. Early in the week. I know where you were too, which is a really cool spot. That very, very few people have had a chance to be in at all for a very long time. So there's a lot more to come from that location.
Yeah,
that's a great spot.
They're doing a great job, really, and what they're doing with the town and supporting and helping. They're great guys, and they're doing great work, and they're helping people. So we're all about that. So that's great.
And it's not too far from the brewery. So that part of Pennsylvania is more and more becoming a treasure trove of really good quality, historic, amazing locations.
Yeah. We talked with Daryl last week, and Daryl Marston, of course, who was with you as well at our Spook-tacular Event, who leads the charge with the baiters down there at My Haunted Manor. They have, they being the town, has so much history because it goes back into the 1750s for incorporation, obviously longer than that for existence for folks settling the area. The commerce and trade that came through that area, the crossing point for the river was a hub for folks to come to the area. They had to. There was only 2 or 3 crossings, another being slightly upriver, one being much further down. So it was the spot, and the connection between York and Lancaster, going back into the pre-Revolutionary War era, with just the major hubs of the area. So Columbia is the spot. Columbia, PA is that spot, and what you guys don't know is when you walk out of the manor and you look to the right down the street at the end of the block, there are 4 row homes. The last one is where I grew up. So
we may have seen
that is my block. And I've said this to Daryl too. That's my home block. And we moved a few years after up to Cherry Street, which is a block up and a block over. But that whole downtown core is, stomping grounds for me. And um, it's so cool to see all of this happening there. The renaissance that the community, the borough has is having and experiencing, and the charge is being led by a lot of what's happening at the manor. So bringing people in and getting them to stay. And Philadelphia had an ad campaign many years ago. I said this last week. Philly's more fun when you sleep over. Well, so is Columbia, and so is Mount Joy, for that matter. You can stay at and really immerse yourself into the community and spend some time there and help the economic stimulus for the area as well. Take something back with you for the experiences you're having at these great places. So come on down. We got something for everybody.
Yeah.
It's a cool town. We took a little tour, and it really is a beautiful town. You guys really should come down and check it out, really.
And that makes him Jamie from the block.
That's funny.
That's it. It's a reboot. We're going to do it.
Yeah, we need to make that song happen.
Well, it's funny. I have two things I want to share. I have a question and I want to comment. The comment is this. Now, hear me out. Okay. We've met before. We've talked here before. We had time with Tony about a year ago. So the one thing that kept coming up was timing and relevance, right? So hear me out on this. I think we should start a band and call it Timing and Relevance. Okay? It's going to be a jam band, right? So it's got all these different musicians in it, and people could come and go because that's like how paranormal people are. They kind of come and go, right? Play all the Paracons, right? And we just have fun. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm in.
Timing and Relevance.
We gotta know somebody who can do something, right? I mean, I can play a tambourine no matter what. So somebody's gonna have to play the cowbell, right?
He's in if there's.
Are there going to be cookies?
There always will be cookies. Don't worry.
All right.
Timing and relevance and cookies.
Timing and relevance. There it is. We're gonna trademark that. All right, I got a question for you, and I asked this question of Daryl as well. I got a really interesting answer. But if time and money were absolutely no object, where would you go to investigate?
I
know where she's going. Go ahead, get your passport out.
What, Lake Titicaca?
Yeah.
I love Lake Titicaca not only. I love saying it, but
I like hearing it.
But places like that, where there's the EMF and the energy and I'm losing the words. The energy. Please help me.
Like
the energetic field and stuff like that.
Anomalous, historic,
ancient
sites.
Any place like that, because I'm not sure. We talk about that the world is consciousness, and I know me and I have discussed this, and people have asked us, does Staticom get affected by the environment, right? And we say no because it's in a closed circuit, and that is true. That is true. But I'm wondering if we are dealing with collective consciousness and through Staticom, as we go to a place like that, because of the environment being so amplified, would it affect it? Nothing to do with the technology of it, but just collective consciousness. And we're getting clear voices. So that's a place like that. Yeah, I would love to explore.
Cool. That's interesting. Yeah, no, I get that. There are some connections to more directly put those two things conceptually together for me, in that equation. But to go to historic places like that and just see what comes through, that would be fascinating for me. To go anywhere with it, and time and money is no object. I don't know. Part of me still wants to really very much say the Queen Mary. I just, because I started there. We never did Staticom there. And it's one of my favorite places to be. Like when you have like a connection with a location for some reason, it just feels more like home than it should. That was that place for me. And when I moved back to New Jersey in 2014, of the few things that I thought I would miss being there, which was not as much as I was inheriting by coming back where my family was, that was one of them. And I really felt bummed out that I wasn't going to be able to go there like every month like I had been.
How about doing it with Annabella Cadurso? That's another one.
And yes, actually, probably too. We wanted to at some point maybe be able to run this with Dr. Annabella Cardoso, who, if it was not for her, if you have my first book, the about the author in the back, she's that's her picture.
Yeah, that would be
because
such an honor. Actually, the
run,
other place would be exciting, but that would be.
You mean this book?
That's the one. Yep. Look at that. I love that. That's so cool that you have it. If you go to the back, you'll see the about the author. And if we could do this with her, and she invited us, if we wanted to go to Spain, we can go to her house. And I would love to see her run direct radio voice.
Oh.
And I would love to run this with her. And we were trying to get her to show up at the Festival of the Unexplained, but her cat was ill, and she's very much in tune with, and just her family as her pets. And we totally understand that, but we really I want to meet her while she's still around, because she's profoundly changed our path. We wouldn't be doing this. We wouldn't be here talking about anything with anybody. And justifiably, the Rathmans' path would not be where it is. They wouldn't be doing this either. It stems back beyond me, and then her, and then them, the Rathmans. It goes back to Dr. Cardoso. If it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be in this boat.
Very cool. We all have that person, that catalyst person that has inspired us to move forward, and they always say you never meet your heroes, and I don't believe that to be true, because when you do finally meet someone, and I think the same will be true for you. You have a kindred spirit, that drive is and passion and purpose that has been seeded to you comes from their work. That's got to be the greatest thing. I hope it happens for you. I really do.
That was when she endorsed the first book. When she did video testimonials, our docuseries that's on Paraflix, Knowingly Talking to the Unknown, the 3-part. She did video testimonials. She sent me 20 something minutes of her talking about the other figures in it and the history of it, and then most recently, a couple months ago, she had gotten asked by the Swedish Society of Parapsychological Research if there's anything in ITC worth looking at. And she goes, I hope you don't mind. I sent them your stuff. I was like, no, I don't mind.
Are you kidding me?
So that's a big endorsement. And we appreciate every single podcast, every appearance, every event, every Paracon that asks us to do anything, whether they get 5 attendees or 5 million. We are grateful for everything. Nobody owes us, but we appreciate all of it.
Yes.
But I would take her endorsement over any Paracon putting me on a poster, over being a YouTube sensation, a TikTok influencer who sees demons at every turn. No. I would take Dr. Cardoso's endorsement over any of that, because she operated on a level not only of integrity, of dedication. She was the first female diplomat to the country of Portugal, where she's from.
Yeah.
And she gave up her diplomatic career in pursuit of vocal phenomenon research when she got immersed in this through a personal situation. So,
I mean, not only is she a good person, but she's a badass too.
Yeah. And all the pioneers, the guy who came up with the term ITC, Radovan Jurgensen, Jurgensen, the father of direct radio voice, she knew all of those people. She sat with Marcello Bacci and his wife, and she backed us. She's endorsed us and what we do. And now Tony's gotten to know her through me, and then she knows who he is and respects him now. I will take that any day, because that, to me, is the most important. And this, I feel the same way with what we're doing now. You guys are people that we admire, that we have a lot of love for, and you show us respect and consideration all the time for what it is we do. That means more to me than fame is not.
And you're good people.
That's not the end all be all. I think that the internet has shown the path of least resistance, and people just want to be known in the field and revered for being on a show, but they don't have anything to bring to the table. And I openly reject that everything's a demon, but come see me talk somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Well, our tens of fans appreciate this.
That's our ballpark, tens of. We're right there.
Tens of, yeah.
So.
Oh my gosh. I think we But Jed, we have no more clips, right? We're past all that.
Yep.
Okay. I to put a very pretty bow on this. How about a shameless plug time for all the good things that are coming up?
Well,
And you, go ahead.
okay, if you want to announce things, we always, what's funny? This is how you know we're old.
Yeah, we
You
got to
go-
look it up.
You want to plug this? Hold on a second, Sonny boy. I got to open
Well,
up the calendar because I
this-
can't.
Hold on. You've met me. You know I don't wear these. Right? So let's talk about being old. I can't see you without them right now.
So we have the 10th New Jersey Paranormal. Go ahead, do it better.
Yeah,
You're
well,
better
actually,
at it.
first and foremost, Thursday night we're speaking and presenting at the Liberty Science Center for their big Halloween Monster Mash event. We've done it for the last 3 years or 4 years now. So it's kind of cool. We get to infiltrate the grounds of science a little bit with our spooky stuff.
It's pretty cool.
That's fun.
They have like a party, but then where we are, it's the movie theater, right? So it's soundproof, so you don't hear anything.
It's like a big.
It's pretty cool.
Like an amphitheater, kind of like the seats go all the way down, and it's the screen is like bigger than a movie theater screen. Like it's huge.
So if you're interested in Staticom, come down because it's not just Staticom. It's a party
It's a whole
outside.
Halloween,
And you'll have fun.
That's Thursday. Saturday and Sunday is the New Jersey Para Unity Expo in Woodbridge, New Jersey, put on by New Jersey Paranormal. We will have an ITC exhibit room there. The following week, from the 8th until the 12th, us two are meeting the Rathmans, who are coming from Arizona, and we're converging in Las Vegas. We don't have a lot to share at the moment, but we have a meeting and some potential to possibly have a footprint for Staticom in the City of Lights there going forward. So we're very optimistic to even have the door open to us for this. But that's what we're going to do. And then when we come back, I think we were invited to do Staticom at Hell House, I think for the first time, which we've never been to before. The 15th, the 16th, the Tubbs.
That's a pre-investigation.
Well, pre-investigation. Yeah. Okay, so that's a private thing. Then what else are we doing?
Oh, you should do you should do this one. No, that one's important.
The Mill?
Yeah. Because that's the public event.
The Mill at Spring Grove?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You're better at it than me.
I don't even know where that is. Okay.
It's Larissa Rex, Kim's Crypt 8.
Kim's Crypt, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's November 4th. I mean, November 22nd. I have a mint in my mouth. That's another thing.
Yeah. Very bad.
Friends of mine own that. I don't know if they still do or not, but friends of mine used to own that. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time in around there, and as a younger person, as a teenager, they had a haunted attraction there. When this buy a ticket and get scared for the night, it was never about the mill or the facility at all. It was basically just some pass through and then outside stuff. So I'm really be intrigued to see what is there, because it's an age old property.
Now I'm really intrigued.
So what's fascinating with this is if there's evidence capture that would be indicative of the history or any kind of a haunting at the location, I don't know that would be what would come from us. We always say that on the grounds of anomalous voices alone, we would never deem a location to be haunted. It's not enough of a criterion to do it. You need more than that, because we can get those anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But it is intriguing about the history and see how Staticom works in there. And we don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's anything going on. Perhaps they have activity in there.
Yeah.
But just to get voices, he's right. Just to get voices without anything else, you really can get voices anywhere. Even yourself without Staticom, with any MP3 recorder, that doesn't mean that you're in a haunted place. You need other stuff.
Right. Well, it's not timing relevance here. It's more context to relevance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right.
I get you. Okay.
Right. Not that we can't produce something that would be indicative of the history there, or maybe there's an occupation of some sorts that's happening there. Not to say that we can't get that, but voices will come through with what we do, and then from there you can bore down a little bit more and determine whether it has anything to do with the location or the history, but not just because they're happening.
Yeah. Well, this is the difference between like a ghost hunter and a paranormal investigator. And we talk about this a lot, and I'm not knocking somebody who wants to be a ghost hunter. You just go out for the thrill. Everything's haunted because something happened.
Right.
If you don't explore the content of what happened, like if a device activates, what caused it, take away the things that are normal first, and old buildings, knob and tube wiring, all kinds of reasons could be why there's EMF everywhere. Just do a baseline walkthrough, if you can, and or try to understand, was there activity outside? This isn't too far from the road. Was a car going by? Did it cause
Right.
something to happen? Lights move, like lights make things, shadows move, sounds. Were there other people present? Are there people in the building? There's a lot of things that could be and might be before you say it's definitely a paranormal situation. And that's the investigator doing the work. And I'm always going to put myself on the investigator side because I'm going to do the legwork of it. Sure, I get excited by the pops of things, once that passes a moment or so later, then okay, what caused this? That's where my mind takes me, and I think it always will. And one of the beautiful things I love about my team at Witchotniks Paranormal is that's our approach. We're going to figure out what it was first before we stake the claim, because it's an injustice, and it's a false marker when everything's paranormal. It can't always be paranormal.
Right. No, yeah, that team has got a lot of strong attributes. That's certainly one of them. You guys have a great team. The interaction with the public at a public event is important. You can't guarantee paranormal experience, but you can guarantee a good experience, and you guys do that in every conceivable way. From the food and beverage stuff, the snacks and everything you put out, to the way you engage the audience between the sessions and get them involved, ask them for feedback. How did this go? Did you feel anything here? You bring different equipment. You give them exposure to the equipment. You explain the equipment. You demonstrate it. Put it in an application for them. If I bought a ticket to do this, and I did start out doing public events just like everybody else does, and I saw some really good people doing it, who really know how to engage with the public rights. I feel like I have a pretty decent eye for when somebody can do that. You guys do it masterfully.
Yeah, you would be the folks that if you're doing that for the first time, you make people want to do it again.
Well, thank you.
You make like,
Thank
wow, this was
Yeah.
so cool. Let's do it again. Yeah, you're that type of people.
Yeah.
And there are others out
You're
there
always
too.
gonna
and
have-
you guys are great, and it's go ahead.
No, it's okay. You're always going to have the everything and everybody's haunted
Right.
people. Yeah,
That
that's
probably exists. I'm not knocking them. There's a place.
No.
There is a place for everybody in the paranormal. There really is.
of course no. You'll always have that. I remember hearing one time a friend of ours talking about how it was an instance. I think it was in New York State where a location was by a court of law deemed to be haunted. And I thought that was interesting. Again, because we come from a consciousness being what's fundamental. So from an idealist perspective, a court of law, which is comprised entirely of people declaring a location to be haunted, what it's doing is it's achieving a small consensus description of the location. It's a collection of subjective experiences to come up with a consensus description. The way the place is described, it doesn't make any defining statement ontologically or to the being of the location. It doesn't say that the location is, in essence, fundamentally a haunted spot. It's the way by which a consensus of people describe the location based on experiences that they had. So I thought that was an interesting declaration that came out of, I guess, of a court situation. But that's how we would look at that.
Well, if something is deemed legally haunted, does that mean that other places are illegally haunted?
Probably.
What the what? The ghost police show up?
Jamie, on that note,
I like how
Out of my head. Right there it is.
you know,
Yeah, no, I like it.
you notice how Ron and Lourdes turned their shameless plug into plugging other people.
Yeah, once again, you guys.
No.
Did we?
Wait, Ed.
We
Thank you. We appreciate you. And
See,
more than you know. More than you know. And I think that, the joy and the enthusiasm that you bring is worth every cent that a person pays in a ticket to come to an event that you're at. And if you're out there and you have the chance, and uh, there's a lot of ways to find Staticom and Ron and Lourdes, in the world.
Mhm.
Get there if you can.
Yep.
You will not be disappointed. You will have an amazing experience, and you'll be in great hands.
We appreciate that.
Thank you,
We appreciate
guys.
it very much. And you know what? There was something that I think Amanda said it earlier about having a version of it to carry around, and we get that a lot. And we are looking down the road at maybe being able to make this available. But if you want my number one argument against making this something that we sell versus something that we bring, this is it. Because we get to come to places and hang out with folks like you and get to share this and be with the people like who are in the chat here. We get to have that instead of somebody buying it off of a website, and we never get to meet those people or be in that environment and have that experience at these places. So it's
Once
brought
again,
us
connections.
great joy from that.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say the global tech support you would have to provide.
That would be bonkers.
No, really.
It'd be costing a whole lot of cookies to get things serviced. Let me just say that, Mr. Widener.
You would never be without, that's for sure.
You would need a lot more cookies for troubleshooting on a regular basis. That's what I'm saying.
So,
You need cookies to carry over after
We
lunch.
love you guys. We love you guys too.
We
The
appreciate
community has been very kind to us, very open to us. We're not trying to achieve any status and win anybody over. We're just sharing what we've been able to do,
And we love it.
and we love it.
And we love you guys. We love working with people.
yeah, we enjoy hanging out with you all the time. So whenever we can, we try to do that.
Looking forward to the next time already. And the time's not long enough when it happens. And I'm speaking from
Us
Mr.
too.
Red Mill.
Because when I say you guys, and I love you guys, and I'm also referring to you, but I'm referring to everyone. Yeah, yeah. Love it.
Yeah. Well,
The arms aren't wide enough to hug everyone, but you're sure going to try. I get it.
Yeah.
let's get something on the calendar to come back to that brewery. Like Todd mentioned before, maybe a whole weekend of doing the brewery, and then maybe doing the Haunted Manor.
Yeah.
In Columbia the following night together. Maybe we'll do two privates back to back.
The whole twofer thing is it totally popped us with us last week talking to Daryl as well, and and again our area is more fun when you stay over. So
That is
wonderful things you can do during the day here as well. We highly recommend anyone to come in the area, either place.
And that's another thing, and then a quick other shameless plug I forgot. That's another sense of community. So Frankie Adeo, who's in the chat here, Frankie had us at the Ritz when Daryl was there. That's when Daryl saw Staticom and met us. We became friends. He got us involved with more events like the Red Mill in New Jersey. The UK, we were invited to do because they knew about us because of Daryl. We're supposed to now go back, I believe, next year for the same reason. We did a couple of episodes of My Haunted Manor. We filmed 2. Ours and then one with Dustin, but then the finale also showed what we got with Staticom. When we got to the UK, 99% of the people knew who we were that attended and what we did because of the My Haunted Manor show. They had seen the episodes. We did not expect that. And then the other thing I forgot to include is that Staticom, we were just invited next year, probably around the same time, September, to speak and present at the Paranormal Research Symposium in Halifax, Canada.
Cool.
Oh, wow.
So,
our pleasure,
international-
Heather.
Yes.
Our pleasure. I'm sorry.
Celebrate. Okay. Yes. If we show you. Yeah, that was fantastic. That's
thank you.
When it coincides with a personal day for folks too. That's
So
it was a really cool time, and I don't think she expected us to sing "Happy Birthday" to her as well.
I
know.
singing "Happy Birthday" to her, but that's a whole other thing. So.
That was fun. That was
and then the golden tickets, and people won Daryl's book. They won one of my books.
Yep.
Wow. You do.
Perfectly, really nicely done.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on tonight. If you can hang out for a little bit, we're gonna talk about what we got coming up, and then if you hang out in the green room, we'll catch up with you after we wrap things up.
We are good.
All right.
Sending those M&Ms over right now.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having us. Thank you to your audience too.
All right. Hold it. We'll see you in a minute. All right, Jamie.
Yeah, so there's a good bit of stuff coming up with us still. So what a great episode, by the way.
Yeah,
man,
definitely a lot of fun.
I can't say enough nice things. I'm I'm probably going to do it anyway, but I got to read this stuff first. So next week on November 5th, we have Mount Washington Hotel. That Chad's going to cover that episode. Looking forward to it. Actually, it's a really interesting place. It's been on my radar for a couple years now. November 12th, we're going to discuss Rose Mackenberg, a real person who has, well, technically she might be a ghost by now. She has passed on back in 1968, but her time in the 20s and 30s and beyond, being an investigator for Harry Houdini, that Harry Houdini, and working through the shams and the falsity of folks who were working in the divinity world back in the day, taking advantage of people and debunking them and calling them out. Some beautiful work, interesting work. I should say beautiful, but interesting work. And just the courage that she provided, and the benefits she provided to legitimizing the field. Speaking of the Queen Mary, she's coming up November 19th. That's going to be Chad again. And, we love shapes and figures around here at Paranormal Lens. So the Great Lakes Triangle. Again, all you need are 3 plots and some spooky stuff in between. There we go. Have a triangle, we'll travel. So, and then also coming up, speaking of the Rathmans out in Arizona, one that's a little further, not too far, but a little further down the line from them, the Birdcage Theater, which I believe to be in Tombstone. Am I right, Chad?
Yep.
I've been there actually. So really, what a neat town. Talk about throwbacks. It's just a cool place, and it's awesome that it's been preserved.
Yeah.
All right. So, and more after that, of course, we'll get to soon. Upcoming events for us with Jotnick's Paranormal, November 16th, coming up in a few weeks. We have another public investigation at Bube's Brewery. And then our last one for this year, at least, is on December 7th. That is also, tickets are available there at boobysbrewery.com. Tickets are available for both events still, but I think the 16th is starting to sell quicker. So, but if you don't have any holiday plans, come and hang out with us. It's a lot of fun. Hopefully we've been able to explain some of that throughout all of this, but also with the input from Daryl last week and Ryan and Lourdes and our guests this week. It is a neat place, and we're very proud of it and happy to call it our home.
Yeah, definitely.
And then how to find us, the usual social medias. You may have found us if you're here with us live tonight on Facebook or YouTube, but we are going to be on all the streaming services tomorrow, 1-ish, I think, in the afternoon on Wednesday. Yeah, ish. I say ish. It could be. I didn't say what time zone it would be 1 o'clock in.
Exactly.
Sometime tomorrow afternoon. This will make it to the rest of the world. However you're finding us, we really appreciate your time and just giving us some of your precious time, actually, because you know how much it means to everybody. None of us have enough of it sometimes. So hopefully we can make your day go a little faster, a little funner. And if we have in any way touched you, made you happy or so forth, leave us a review, throw some stars at us. We really appreciate the feedback. We just love to know how we're doing out there. Other content exists for Jotnick's Paranormal, though, on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, etc. And if you have any thoughts for us on an episode or any information you don't want to share on the streaming services or elsewhere, you can always shoot us an email at paranormallenspodcast@gmail.com. We will be happy to take listener submissions, for thoughts of ideas of episodes. If you've got your own story you want to share and, we can make it into an episode, certainly feel free to reach out to us. We'll go from there. So we really appreciate that opportunity. And I think, sir, that is it, right?
I believe so.
I'm running out of clicks on the right-hand move. So I think we're done. So,
okay.
As always, a great episode, Chad. Thanks for coordinating all of this and making it look seamless as usual. Well, sir, and now that you've got producer title, into your,
I didn't even know that.
Credit.
I'm just amazed. But it always makes it easy too when we have great guests. So I want another shout out to Ron and Lourdes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Happy Halloween to everybody. That's coming up this week. So.
Yep. I want to say one more thing, though, before we go. Next Tuesday is November 5th. We're going to be here, right? And we're going to be here at 9 o'clock Eastern time. Mm-hmm. It's election day. So use us as a way to get away from all that noise if you want. But please get out and vote. Make your voice be heard. Every voice matters regardless of who you're voting for. It matters to everyone. So please do.
Yep. Yes. That's the key. You use your rights and your privilege and take advantage of that. So
as I learned when I turned 18, my dad said to me, if you don't vote, you don't get to complain.
Right. So
I do. I complain. So therefore, I can complain. I
Jamie,
should say.
we're gonna go off in 7 seconds because we have a 2-hour time limit. So good
Oh
night.
my God. Hey, good night, all. Thanks again. Take care.